So moving on to another invited speaker of the day, Meeta Nangya Goswami. Meeta Nangya Goswami is an educationist and development professional with more than 2 decades of experience in project development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, focused on gender, biodiversity, conservation, and education for sustainable development. She is recognized for innovative thinking, leadership, team building, and communication skills, as well as successful engagement with diverse people and stakeholders. She has first-hand experience of the connection between the grassroots and the policy level work. Meeta joined WWF India in 2005 as a senior program officer for community development in the Elephant Conservation Program, and went on to become the director of the Environment Education Division of WWF India, where she worked till 2015. Before that, she worked in various capacities: head of English at the Assam Valley School, project coordinator of a project funded by the Ford Foundations, and also served as a judge at the District Consumer Court. Meeta has trained the master trainers of both CBSE and NCERT at New Delhi, and also the SCERTs, and more than 200 diets. She has won an international tender announced by the Swiss government in November 2019 and worked as an international expert in education for sustainable development, ESD, for 3 years in Mongolia. A member of the Northeast Writers Forum, she has penned short stories, essays, and poems. May I welcome Ms. Goswami to please come forward. And may I request Trisha Borborua to felicitate our speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a very hearty congratulations on holding the first annual day of the women's chapter of CII. I'm really happy to be here, to be able to share some thoughts and insights about sustainable business ideas. But before I get to those ideas, and some of which Mrs. Gamlin has so eloquently already put across, I would like to, for all of us, to pause and reflect about why are we talking about sustainable business ideas and not just saying business ideas. So I'd just like to, I'd like to first dwell a little on that before we move into those ideas. And I think, I have a presentation, so. It felt like a lot of synchronicity while you were talking, because after having returned to Assam, after my stint at Mongolia, I have also become the president of 100-year-old women's organization called Tezpur Mahila Samiti, and their core area is weaving. And so I think, they say there are no coincidences, and I think this particular meeting was meant to be. Because I come from a grassroots organization which focuses on handloom. And I think before I move into my presentation, I'd like at the very outset to say that I hope you sign off this annual day by us trying to explore how the women's chapter of CII can help the weavers at the grassroots, which are under the umbrella of the Tezpur Mahila Samiti, to make that journey from Sonitpur to Paris. So with that happy thought, let me now take you through my presentation, which is a little philosophical to begin with, but I think we all need that anchoring before we set out to do what we need to do in the world. So, sustainable business ideas. And before we go into that area, let's pause for a moment to look at this beautiful, lonely blue planet, which we call home, which is some 4.5 billion years old, and in which life began some 3.7 billion years ago. It's a precious planet. I mean, I know Elon Musk is trying to build those apartments in Mars and trying, but there's nothing that can replace the beauty of this precious life-affirming planet. And we've all heard this word, Anthropocene, right? If we were to shrink the 4.5 billion years into 24 hours, our species has been here not even a full minute. And it's quite amazing how much havoc we've managed to wreak in that short time. Because we seem to have somehow forgotten that we don't own this planet, that we share it with 8.7 million other species. And even as I speak, there are new species which are being discovered. And the science of it is so complex that though we talk about the web of life, we still don't know all the intricate connections between one form of life and another. And hence, like the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres says, we've landed ourselves in the middle of an existential crisis. And we face a triple planetary emergency. The first one, of course, being climate change. I know that most of you are aware that if the global temperature surpasses 1.5 degrees Celsius, and we are at 1.2 degree, we have already crossed, the whole ecosystem, the whole fragile web of life will collapse. And all these extreme weather events that we've been experiencing, the latest being Cyclone Mocha, right? Which they said the rapid intensification, where within 24 hours, the speed of that cyclone went up by 55 kilometers per hour. From grade 1, it went to a grade 4 cyclone. These are things which are unheard of. And so this is our first crisis, and this is completely authored by us, by the Homo sapiens. Then, of course, we have biodiversity loss. If you're familiar, there's a report that comes up every 2 years called the Living Planet Report. And the latest one in 2022 reports that the overall, all kinds of species, both plant and animal species, there's a decline by 69%. And 1 million species are threatened by extinction. While we want, you know that Pepsi ad? Dil mange more. We want more and more because we think we own this planet. The third one is, of course, again, linked to our species, which is pollution. And the most frightening of this pollution is, of course, plastic pollution. 400 million tons of plastic is generated by us every year. And this stands to double by 2040. There's now micro or nanoplastic found in breast milk. And I believe there's another research which says that every person on earth now consumes the equivalent weight of a credit or debit card. We consume that amount of nanoplastic. So while we dream of more and more economic growth, this is the state of affairs of the home that we live in, the air that we breathe and the water that we drink, and the soil that we grow our food on. And the scary part is that when you look at biodiversity loss, there's data to show that every minute we are losing the equivalent of some 27 football fields. And that's because we want to grow more food. Because 30% of carbon emissions is because of agriculture. And you go to any wedding, any party, the kind of food that we waste is actually, I mean, I don't have a word, it's outrageous. Because this model of growth and development that we've got oriented to, we really all need to step back. And that's why the comments made by Mrs. Gamlin about these being organic, culturally relevant, and local growth, where we redistribute wealth fairly. That kind of business is what we need to be looking at. And hence, I find this artwork very beautiful because it showcases how it's the ecological circle within which and out of which the biogeographies that we live in, that dictates all our lives, our socio-cultural lives. How we dress, what we eat, what songs we sing, the food we eat is all dictated and nurtured by this and nurturing and all-encompassing ecological domain. And the economics of it, the circle within, was to facilitate and lubricate the lives of everyone. Somehow this model has got inverted. And it's the economics that is dominating and calling the shots. And we all need to think about this before we sit down to generate ideas about business, about entrepreneurship, and before we go to the drawing board to develop our business plans. This should be our guiding light. The pointer. Because right now, we have borrowed from our environmental future to pay for our economic present. And that is not sustainable. In order to understand, I'd just like to dwell a little about our footprint. And the footprint actually comprises the amount of nature each human being living on this planet requires to meet all their lives, to live it with dignity, and also to dispose the waste responsibly. So that is what comprises our footprint. I'm sure the youngsters over there are all familiar with this concept. Are you? Yes? And to further unpack the footprint, all of these different areas in nature are a part of our footprint. You know, we need the fishing grounds, built-up land for all the infrastructure, our homes, schools, factories, universities, grazing lands and lands for agriculture, forest land for our timber, fiber, paper, and also to sequester the carbon that we release. All of this is part of our footprint. And again, a part of nature where we dispose our waste. And I know we have Swachh Bharat mission, but every corner of at least the town that I live in, there's garbage, there's litter. There's no responsible disposal, nor are there mechanisms in place with the municipality to be able to do that. If there is garbage collection in one place, which could be, you know, waste to energy plants, but in reality, on the ground, I'm afraid, things haven't changed very much. And if you look at the ecological footprint per country per person, because only 1/4 of the planet has biocapacity. When you divide that with the world population of 8 billion, in a fair, equitable, just world, every person ought to be having 1.7 global hectares at their disposal. But if you look at those figures in front of you, you will find that each individual Qatarian has 14.4 global hectares at their disposal. The Indian footprint, by the way, is 1.2 global hectares, but we are 1.4 billion Indians. So that itself puts all our natural resources under huge stress because there's so many of us.
But Qatar is barren in northeast is not.
Yes, and that's the tragedy of Qatar because their carbon footprint there's so much export happening. They have oil and they buy everything.
They buy all your food.
Yeah.
Food because they have shortage of food.
Yes, and they buy our best. Yeah. So if we aspire to become rich and live like Americans, we need 4.5 planet Earths. And I'm afraid we have only one, right? And there's no way you can order another planet, not on Flipkart, not on Amazon. There's just one precious planet that we have. And it's within the finite boundaries of this planet that we have to design all our businesses, all our lives, and all our aspirations. So we cannot have infinite ambitions and aspirations in a planet which has finite resources. And we are not giving it enough time to regenerate what we are excavating and, just exploiting and just taking. So, our Mother Earth, if we had an image of her, would look like this. Because the world average ought to have been 1.7 global hectares per person, but it stands at 2.8 global hectares per person, which means it's an overshoot of 50%. And the fact we are living in the midst of an ecological recession. Forget about economic recession. We have bigger problems. We are living in the middle of an ecological recession. So we need to rethink prosperity. We really need to redesign our business models. They have to be nature positive. That means we need to have more forests, more fish in our oceans and rivers, more pollinators in our croplands. So whatever businesses we plan, that has to be priority number one. And they have to be all transformative and game-changing and system-wide, which means that we also need to redesign our financial and economic systems, where value is not only monetary value, but we look at a whole range of other values and of human and planetary well-being. That has to be a component in our business plans. We also have to see that the consumer, the way we consume, the way we produce, the way we use technology, all of this is not taking away from nature, but adding, but giving back. That's extremely important. And we all need to now understand how we designed our businesses in the face of a severe resource crunch. Because like I said, 69% of our species is on the decline. And we need to move from goals and targets to values and rights. Like you said, that it's not just the middleman and the person who has the capital that they make the most. Because the world is the way it is because there needs to be a redistribution of wealth. And hence, people need to move from these just financial targets to values, to a system of values where there's fair distribution and where there is the person, the last mile, the person who actually plucked that cocoon from the som tree is the one who has the wherewithal to live a healthy life with dignity, which is not the case right now. I know at Tezpur Mahila Samiti we struggle with our weavers because we cannot pay them enough. Because, of course, now I know, I'm sure we are joining hands and we'll try and change that. But there is a real struggle on the ground. There's this wealth of cultural knowledge and resources. But there's a dearth of the chain, the whole value chain. There are big gaps there. And we really need to all put our heads together to fix that. Yeah, so I didn't know you were going to talk about this, so I said there's a lot of synchronicity happening today. Yeah, no, there are no coincidences. This was meant to be, because also when I researched a little, I found that there are only 2 silk spinning yarn mills in Assam. We produce, I think, about 68% of the muga and 80% of the muga in the country, and some 68% of the eri, but only some 12 and 6.7% of it is used as raw material in the state. We export all of it raw. So there's no value chain. It's grown and it's just taken away. So this is a huge area. And again, I found what you said, even under the joint forest management, there's a lot of degraded land available. So that can be used for growing of food for sericulture trees. Those are 2 areas that can really help us create valuable, sustainable businesses. And I think this is really worth looking into. And then getting a body of people together to really understand what's happening and what needs to be done. And especially the CII needs to look into why do we not have more silk spinning mills? Why are we getting our mulberry silk from Karnataka? So we really need to look into all of those things and get a robust business model developed. While we were on the area of silk and fashion, I thought I would also just talk about this because what you mentioned, circular processes. Only 8.6% of the world's businesses have circularity, which is frightening. So can you imagine a linear method of production, the huge, humongous waste that is there. And the fashion industry is one of the most wasteful industries in the world. Even more, their carbon footprint is 8 to 10% times more than international flights. Though they use about 215 trillion liters of water annually, which is equivalent to some 87 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. That's the kind of waste. You know, we are all like to be blamed for that. Your Zara and your Forever 21 and your this called fast fashion, and that's creating a lot of waste, and it's leaving our weavers and our yarn, which is locally, culturally relevant, out in the cold. And this is a Somalian designer called Nimco Adams, who was designing for Forever 21. And she's become UN's one of their climate champions. So she completely stopped that. And now she's looking at only local traditional African fibers like hemp, even tree bark, to produce textiles. She's still doing fashion, but she's moved into a sustainable, responsible fashion designer. So we need things like this to happen. And of course, she's paying fair wages. Like I know our hippies, we struggle to find weavers because we can't pay them enough. Because we are not selling enough. So she's also paying very good fair wages. You also spoke about local cereals, which I also thought was an amazing area waiting to be discovered. I mean, your cornflakes, just because it's capitalism, and we know Kellogg's, they have the money to advertise, to be there on television screens, and it's convenient, but it's low fiber, full of sugar, unhealthy. Whereas our local Kumal Saul and Dhekit Khunda Handaguri and what have you, they are rich in fiber, full of minerals. Why aren't we getting Ogilvy to do a nice campaign for us and make it so sexy that people don't eat cornflakes and oats anymore? That would be an amazing sustainable business idea. But again, connecting it to the grower, the one who actually is at the dheki, gets her or his, fair wage. This is an area that really needs to be looked into. Horticulture, again, because I remember reading a newspaper report that they actually threw tons of kgs of pineapple down the hillside in Mizoram. And I remember once I was at Ashoka, my colleague, old colleague from WWF will remember, and I went for breakfast in the morning, and they served me this real fruit. And it was winter, and I remember driving down the road, and there were these little hillocks of oranges everywhere. So I said, why don't you have fresh orange juice? You're a government hotel, and you should be linking yourself to the community and getting that orange juice on our breakfast tables. So this is yet another area which we really need to look into, because we are, I think, one of the highest plant complexities in the area is in Arunachal Pradesh, Eastern Himalayas. I remember going into Kaziranga with an Australian biologist once, and he went crazy. He said, oh, that creeper is going clockwise. That's so many million years old. That one is growing anti-clockwise. And I said, because we don't have the language to read the forests, but we are blessed with some of the most biodiverse areas. We should be considering ourselves lucky. If you wake up in the morning, like from my bedroom, I actually hear like a symphony of some 7-8 different birds singing in the morning. And incidentally, we have 950 species of birds in Assam. That's amazing, isn't it? So what are we doing? Why aren't we translating all of this natural wealth into sustainable, fair businesses? Water hyacinth, again, I know there's a lot happening, but this, again, needs to become more. Because, like I said, 400 million tons of plastic waste every year. So why can't we get some more, biodegradable packaging? Why can't we, again, look around us? And water hyacinth is also an invasive species. So we'll be doing a it'll be double whammy for us. If we can package using it, we'll also be de-stressing our water bodies a lot. Upcycle products, and these are websites I would ask you to look into, because there's a lot, because circularity has to increase. That is the business idea of the future. Upcycle. I know these are words we hear very often, but we need to make them a practical component of our business plans. What upcycling can help generate good businesses? This is an image of repurposed candle jars as storage, for storage. Then I found these repurposed tin cans, the cans that we use, and also packing our gifts. I'm so happy to see that you had no plastic or paper in your gifts, because every little, action like that counts. And it sets the trend that, this is the way to be. Because we need to rewrite the narrative, basically. And the socio-cultural, economic that things that we associate to our status. We need to redefine that. And how many of you have heard about this Taka char? Taka money, char is carbon. Started in 2018. He's a Delhi boy. And you know all the pollution that comes from Punjab when they burn waste. So he formed a portable machine which actually converts agricultural bio-waste into valuable products, into fuel, into fertilizers, into enriched carbon. And he added 40% to the incomes of some 4,500 farmers. By 2030, his business is going to add for farmers' income about 4 trillion USD. And he will be bringing down 1 gigaton of carbon emission per year. Now that's a sustainable business idea. Yeah, and this last slide again, back to nature, because in Assam, in Arunachal, in all the 7 northeastern, and I think the 8th is Sikkim now, we have nature's bounty. We are blessed. And if we can make a business model which is truly ecotourism, where we are sharing the benefits with the community by helping them understand that it's that nature that is your livelihood, so conserve it. And along with that, their cuisine, their way of life, their attire, their songs, all of that. If we can do that, and if we can also put nature studies and entrepreneurship around nature in our upper secondary school curriculums, where students already start thinking about an enterprise. There are so many children who live in these areas who can actually then understand that, hey, I'm sitting on a gold mine. I need to organize myself in a way that this converts into a livelihood. So if we can also look into that, that would be just wonderful. And I leave you with this, one of my favorite quotes, which I would like you to read for yourself, so that we understand that we cannot function with business as usual. We need a redefining, and we need to put nature first, because we are just one tiny part of that beautiful system. We don't own it. We're just one little part of it. Okay, when the last tree is cut down, the last fish eaten, and the last stream poisoned, will we realize that we cannot eat money? And thank you for your patience.
Yes, ma'am, I just loved your presentation. First of all, I must tell you that every slide was so relevant, and it just kind of touched my heart, because I am somebody who is very, very concerned about what's happening to my city. Number one, we've seen these enormous trees being cut down all across the city, and we're just keeping mum about it. I might have just made a video or something, and then there's somebody who says that, why didn't you take action before it all started? So, but then now we see that all the trees have been totally wiped out, and we are just helpless, because nobody asked us that can we cut down these trees, and these trees will be gone. Just the other day I was at Ulubari and I saw this beautiful tree. It's a small tree, and I saw these birds, you know, they were all gathering around in the evening, and I was very sad, thinking that we are never going to have those birds in Zoo Road. And this is what I see. I'm very sad to see all those branches and trees all cut down. I mean, they're just cut down from the bottom, and they're just lying there. In fact, the trees are not crying. Let me tell you, they're laughing at us because of the future that is going to be, the city that is we are going to see, the kind of the climate change, the kind of weather change that we are going to see in the city and in my state. That is why the trees are laughing at us, ma'am.
I wish we didn't. Is this working? Yeah. But I wish, you know, Tina, we weren't so helpless. And I think you need to understand that you aren't helpless, that we really need to learn how to come together to raise our voices. And I think Archita sitting there, you head the WWF India state office. Perhaps it's time to connect more to the public and get school children and college children to come out. Because, I remember we worked with a school near Diporbil when in 2010 or something. And the school children, the school felt very helpless because one of their teachers said that when I was a kid, I used to jump into the river and swim. And it was a beautiful life. But today we stop children from stepping into the water because they get a rash or an allergy, because all the sewage from Guwahati is being dumped into Diporbil, which is also a Ramsar site, right? So we know all of this, but why aren't we doing anything? So we taught those school students to do a campaign. We asked them to run a campaign and write to the Chief Minister, because also people would come in, pollute the place, have picnics and then go away. And I was later told that picnics were stopped in one particular area near that school, and that change happened. And that must have been very empowering for the students to understand that when we took action, something changed. And I think it's important that for all of us in our communities and localities to now start understanding that we can make change happen. And we must step up and do something. And I think you definitely should do something.
Ma'am, I'm just going to interrupt you again, and I'm going to tell you that I have done my best. I have been down because I've seen how near the Brahmaputra there has been enough garbage which has been thrown. I have taken those pictures, I've done videos, and I've sent them, I've tweeted about them, but nobody has taken action at all. I've made n number of videos, ma'am. And I don't know how this, because the commissioner meets me, whoever the commissioner is, they'll always tell me that you only give me galis on Twitter. That is all you do. I said, no, sir, I don't do that. I'm just showing you a picture of my city and how the water body is going to be totally, like, our Brahmaputra, the fishes out there are going to be affected by the garbage. So I have done my bit, ma'am, and I keep telling people, wherever you see anything like this, please send it to me. You don't have to fall into trouble, just send that to me. I will tweet about it. Just send those videos to me. So
I think also, sorry, I'm being a little,
yes, ma'am,
but I think also another way to go is to figure out the smallest administrative unit from the municipal point of view, maybe the ward commissioner of that area, go to him, talk to him, figure out who's in charge, find out, and probably knock at the right door. And I think, the current political dispensation is proactive, right?
Yes,
so maybe if you can get it into their ears or, use social media, I'm sure some change can happen. Don't give up. Please don't give up.
I won't, ma'am. You'll find me selling water ponds as fisheries near my area, because those pots have not been mended as yet.
I feel that I agree with you that we are very rich in our, in 360-degree, heritage, everything, and we can sustain ourselves very well. But, until unless we go ahead with a very strong attitude and we try to change the attitude of not us, even the youth, because they are the great wealth for us. So until unless we do that, and we have to voice our protest, we should not be afraid of voicing our protest. Until unless we go very strongly ahead, everything is going to be just a matter of just talking and just forgetting. Because I started I'm an IT entrepreneur. I started my institute way back in 1988. In fact, when this awareness of the IT was spreading here. And, I've seen over so many years that until unless you are very strong, everyone will take us for granted. So we need to have a group of strong ladies who are really determined to really face all sort of hurdles and go ahead. Otherwise, we'll face a lot of problems because we are very rich.
We have a bunch of strong ladies in this room.
So we should combine immediately.
And we have Mrs. Gamlin, who's been in the government. So, so let's all come together.
Let's all join hands,
together.
Yeah, because you see,
we have to stop talking and start doing.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, we have members who just, They just, I'm sorry to say that, but they just come. But we need really some good, who really wants to, put it into action actually.
I was in the Municipal Corporation of Delhi when Sheila Dikshit was the Chief Minister. And often we found that, lots of trees were cut when buildings were coming up, roads were being built. And there was absolutely no census which could give us data of how many trees have been cut. So she actually introduced a policy of, if you cut one tree, you have to plant 10 trees. So you've seen the green cover in Delhi. We owe it to her that she brought about this policy. As we have to build roads, as we have to build bridges, we need to also cut the trees. But are we sort of planting 10 times more so that our forest cover remains intact or increases manifold, because nature is bountiful in Assam? The other thing I was listening to all of you about garbage disposal. I think today your civic administration is becoming stronger. You have house-to-house collection. Disposal at a garbage point where there's a sanitation refill or where there's a waste to energy, as she had mentioned, you will have to look at such solutions, because the urban planning, which had started in a manner with some amount of community participation, is in many ways we find residents' welfare association, citizens becoming more aware of their sort of right, but also in terms of duties. If we can make resident welfare associations who also take off community or certain cluster of people who take care of garbage disposal, become aware of what is what needs to be done in a more organized manner, you find that civic administration becomes that much more participative and that much more successful.
Good evening, everyone. It was very nice to attend the session. I really enjoyed, and it was very informative. Well, my name is Pakiza Rahman, and I am the director of MGI Group. We are into research and development of agarud. And our chairman, Dr. Zahirul Islam, he has been the brain behind the Assam and the Tripura government in legalizing the agarud industry, which was under certain business people only. They were into monopoly, and the local people, the indigenous people of Assam, were deprived of this business because the actual value and actual cost of the business was not exposed. They were not having all the knowledges about where does the agarud go once it gets exported. To add to these sustainable business ideas, I would like to say that MGI Group has cultivated more than 16 lakhs of agarud saplings in and around northeastern states. I would like to inform Gamlin ma'am that in Arunachal Pradesh alone, we have planted more than 9 lakhs of agarud saplings, including Meghalaya, Tripura, Manipur, Nagaland, and of course Assam. So this can be a sustainable business because not only we are going into afforestation, it is also giving an economic development of the region. Because once the tree matures, the value increases, and when we harvest the trees, the story is that becomes a different story. Because agarud is all the agarud going to the Gulf countries and all over the world is from Assam alone. But the Assamese people, we the indigenous people of Assam, we are being deprived of this. So Mr. Zahirul Islam, Dr. Zahirul Islam, he is the chairman of MGI Group, and he has been working in this since 2008. And we have cultivated, we cater to the needs of all the farmers, we create awareness. We basically provide a 360-degree solution to the agarud industry, right from cultivation, from soil to oil. So that I wanted to let you know, ma'am. Thank you so much.
I was only just, can I just react to this? I was just thinking that, a tree plantation which takes, which has a longer gestation really doesn't, mean much for a cash inflow for a livelihood sustainable purpose. So I was looking at horticulture, and when I looked at Arunachal Pradesh, I found that out of 3 lakh hectares, they were actually cultivating about 1.5 lakh, and there were many in the temperate and subtropical regions where they could grow, strawberries or sticky rice or kiwis or, or passion fruits. And often, perhaps we were not able to get them the right knowledge in the purpose. And from the government side also, when the intervention started, many women entrepreneurs, there's a woman I believe who has started a wine brewery in kiwi plantation.
Right.
And then I have myself found that, we have some land in Bomdila, and I've been telling my daughter, grow some kiwis. I've not been able to encourage her, despite the fact that I've motivated her. Okay. And we tried to declare her also as a progressive farmer, but she, probably because of her academics and all that, she didn't have time. But I find that today, the Hayward variety of kiwi, which is a crossbreed between the Australian and the New Zealand variety, which is doing very well in Arunachal Pradesh. So, and I also found when you have the Kharif season, being closed, and then you have the winter where the land is lying fallow, why don't we grow the red sticky rice? Herein I found that why don't we have a common geographical indication, because red sticky rice is also grown in Assam, it's also grown in Manipur, it's also grown probably in Nagaland. Yeah. And the red sticky rice is very popular in the world market. So why can't we showcase and package it? The only thing perhaps is it may have to be declared organic in terms of whether some fertilizer has been used or not. But without phasing out fertilizers, like we should not distress, we should not put the farmers at distress as it happened in Sri Lanka. So we should also look at certain patches of land which are free from fertilizers and where it's lying fallow and where we could grow such species which can add value in the food chain and also be a means of livelihood for the local people, not only sort of in terms of women or men, but for the community as such. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Today we had really two very insightful sessions, and to say what Teenat was saying about the trees being felled in Zootinyale. I stay right at that point, fortunately or unfortunately. And some of our land from our place has been taken. So we have 4 very big trees. So yesterday, very in a planned manner, I uprooted whatever I could, 3 of them, and replanted. So that is a small thing that I could do. And maybe I should put up some photos in social media so that the others may follow, or, So we come to the end of a wonderful, wonderful session with so many takeaways and so many business ideas, so much we have to work on sustainable business development goals, we have to work on the best practices, we have to work on ethics. And what I like about Gamlin Mann, when she refers to the history, now it's the time where we need to teach our children ethics, because I'm an early childhood educationist, and I believe in that ethic and moral should be there, because tomorrow when it's like 20, 30 years later, they can, then we can give a reference that yes, it was started at that time, because at one point of time, economy took a front seat, then ethics, moral. We just need money. So we have to change our mindset. We have to change the mindset of the youth, of the young ones who are growing up. And I think that is how we can contribute in our small ways towards a sustainable country, a sustainable nation, and a sustainable state.
Read that, the students from Assam has actually topped in the JEE entrance exam, 2 students from Assam. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to the mothers who brought up this.
So I would request Sonia Nangia to give away the vote of thanks.
Thank you for attending, everyone, for attending this evening and giving us time to the CI IWN wing. Thank you, Gamlin ma'am, for your words of wisdom. Your advice on promoting culture-specific livelihood activities or technological advancement, improving the scope of women to become successful entrepreneurs are the main takeaways, I think. And thank you, Meeta. I'll address her as Meeta. Being my sister, I take the liberty of doing that. Thank you for an insightful session. Made us aware of the footprints of our businesses and the need to put nature first. Thank you all. And we request everyone to join us for tea. Thank you.